Okay.
Welcome, everybody, to the 68th episode of an Unearthly podcast, recording live on 13 August 2014. I am Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and with me are Mad Matt Winchell,
Hello.
Randy Ronson McCulloch,
Always a pleasure.
and Tim the Enchanter Sheridan. Welcome to the final... Oh, sorry, I cut you off there.
Yes.
Stepping on his lines, man.
Hats on you.
Bill, you paused. Give us time to respond.
Yeah.
Only done this 68 times now.
Much like how I keep forgetting to actually start the opening video.
Welcome to the final episode of the Mind of Mofat retrospective, featuring the Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe, which was always one of Jackie Tyler's favorite fantasies. In the news today, we have some deep breath-related stuff to start with, including a trailer for it.
Wow, there's a trailer? Whoa.
Yeah, I did not actually have a chance to watch it, but there was a trailer.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I haven't watched it either. It's been kind of a bizarre week.
It's been a very bizarre week in many ways.
Yes.
Well, excuse me while I mute for a second, because I'm going to watch.
Oh, he's gonna watch it. Okay. Yeah, I've already watched it very briefly while we were talking earlier. It's okay, I guess. It's a thing, and there's a big giant dinosaur on it.
It makes it a little easier not to spoil Deep Breath because now people know that the dinosaur is in that episode.
Dinosaurs are always cool.
Dinosaurs aren't always cool. Have you watched the third Doctor era?
Oh, the sad little toy Muppets.
I stand by my...
Okay, trailer's not that long.
Yeah, the trailer includes that throwback line.
Huh?
The throwback line that Clara uses that David
Don't like
used
it.
9 months ago, so it's kind of too soon, I think.
And that, technically, Patrick Troughton used first, many years ago.
Patrick Troughton used first, yes, but I mean, in terms of it being used recently, it was used only 9 months ago, which was actually only 2 episodes ago, so I do think it was kind of early to be reusing that line again.
Although, technically, it's the first time a non-doctor has used the line.
That's also true.
Yes, I guess.
And Moffat is, all about the throwback references, even if they don't make sense.
He's also all about using things that we've seen him use before, as we've discussed the past few weeks.
It's like he tries to force memes.
Memes does not a show make.
Cannot force a meme.
Okay. So, the trailer doesn't show us anything we really haven't seen. It shows us more details on... well, it does show a lot of scenes we haven't seen, but it shows nothing new that we haven't heard of
Right,
before.
The public had known the dinosaur was in series 8 from the season trailer, but I don't think it was known to be in Deep Breath before this. I don't think
at least publicly, yeah.
Yeah, well, now it is.
Right.
And obviously, of course, Vastra and Jenny are now known to be in it.
Right.
Although
Of
that's
course,
not...
that is something that had been publicly mentioned.
Well, yeah, because they were seen filming.
We knew they would show up eventually.
Right. I wish Vastra's line about dinosaurs was included in the trailer, though. But
Spoilers.
altogether, it's an okay trailer, I guess. Nothing mind-blowing, nothing terrible.
Now, does Vastra view dinosaurs as ancestors?
No, pets.
No.
Pets.
Okay.
They are
grew up with
trained
dinosaurs.
pets.
Pretty much Silurians you see are generally were alive around the time of dinosaurs. I'm not sure if it was the same in the 70s, but I know in New Who, it's that they've been in stasis for millions of years.
Pretty much the same thing, yes.
That is how it was in Classic Who.
Alright. You'll have to forgive my ignorance. I'm still relatively new to Who.
That's okay. You get to go back and look at the silly rubber costumes they used to be.
Oh, I
Have
love
you-
rubber costumes.
Have you watched Series 5? 2010 season?
I have watched the Series 5. I have not watched all of Classic Who.
But there was the two-parter in Series 5 with the Silurians. Basically, the only difference between that and Vastra's backstory is that was on screen and Vastra's backstory was off screen.
Apparently, yes.
Alright.
Because Moffat can't be bothered to add in more than a throwaway line. Or two.
Okay. Other than the Deep Breath trailer, we have some news. By the way, Randy, how did you come across that bit of news that you brought up to us?
By actually looking at it when we were going for the episodes.
Gotcha. So you just were happened to be going through Netflix and saw that they had properly put all of New Who in there.
Well, we saw the Netflix has the bit up that says new episodes whenever they add stuff to a series.
They usually do, but I'm like when I just looked at it today after you talked about it, and I'm not seeing the new episodes thing.
Yeah, it was on there on the PS3 Netflix last night.
Let me see if I see it on the main page. But like, oh, there we go. On the main page, I'm seeing it, but if I go to the Doctor Who page, I don't see it.
Yeah, this was off the main page. So I checked it out, and yes, I saw first that Day of the Doctor, Time of the Doctor were there, and I just for curiosity's sake, I started going, and I noticed that because where we left off last time we looked at it,
was an episode that wasn't there that is now.
Yeah, and I went back and I checked Series 4, and all the specials are there now.
And you know what? I think they were working on that today, because when I actually linked into the chat to it, for whatever reason, it was saying 9 seasons, and I was like, oh, it's a mistake. You go there, there's 7. Now it's saying 7 series. It's not actually saying seasons anymore. That's different than it was an hour or two ago.
Yeah.
I believe series is the term they use in the UK.
Yeah, well, yes, at least not now. Currently, it is, but Netflix was all American terminology last time I had looked.
Yeah, I see that now. It's listed down at the bottom of where I am, Series 6. Yeah.
It's odd, but okay.
Well, they decided, and maybe this means that when they're getting a little further in, they may merge classic and modern Who.
They might.
So it goes season 1 through 26, and then series 1 through 7, because I really hate how they do classic Who right now.
Yeah, that's kind of annoying, yeah.
How every episode is a season.
Right.
Which is stupid.
Every serial is a season, you mean?
Yeah, every serial.
Now that we say that, I'm going to go to Classic Who just to see, if they
change anything there.
To that. Like, even if they just changed it to say serials instead of seasons. It says, okay, now it's saying 18. Okay, now it's saying collections.
Oh, I love cereal. I like to eat it with milk.
And this is why you're a serial killer.
And it's now referring to them as 18 collections rather than 18 seasons.
That's at least a better terminology.
Yeah, at least it's better terminology. It's not as misleading as it used to be. So anyway, Netflix is updated. Yay.
Yep.
Yeah, well, it's important.
It's better than the Twitch update.
By far.
It's important for the people who Netflix is their main way of watching Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is interesting to note that as of this moment, New Who is complete on Netflix. Everything currently out is on Netflix.
Everything of episode length or longer, of course.
Yeah.
Does that mean that that Planet of the Dead is on there now?
Yes.
It is. You've seen it?
I looked. I saw it. That's when I checked
awesome.
Series 4. It was there. Planet of the Dead is on there.
All right, so I'm going to be watching that on Netflix probably this week because I've only ever watched it on YouTube.
Okay.
Moving on.
Let's
it's
see.
Good for me because I get
Planet
my
of the Dead is
booth
on
flicks.
there. A Christmas Carol is on there.
Yeah.
Tonight's episode's on there. The Doctor, the Widow, the Wardrobe. And all of the seasons are intact. I checked every single episode. So if you've been missing an episode of Doctor Who, it's on there now. You can go back and watch it. You don't have to look for YouTube, except if you want to see the webisodes and the Children in Need specials.
Well, to be fair, most of the shorter length things are on YouTube anyway, so it's still not holding people back, really.
Yeah, it shouldn't be. You'll have to crawl YouTube for them. By the way, guys, I don't know if you know this, but there was a webisode prior to the episode we're reviewing tonight.
Oh. Okay.
Oh, I was not aware. I just watched the episode. I did not watch the webisode. I'm going to be completely lost.
I vaguely recall it existing. Was it about the aliens or the Widow?
It's neither. It's basically explaining. It explains a little of what's going on at the very opening of the episode.
I was gonna say, if anything that left me scratching my head was the very opening. Why the hell the Doctor was up there and getting tossed off a ship that he apparently started exploding?
Yeah, it basically is a call to Amy from the Doctor, explaining, he's on this ship, they were doing bad things, he's tried to stop them, but he's stuck, separated from the TARDIS.
Oh yes, I do remember seeing that once and not remembering much about it.
And he had his hand on a button that would blow up the ship the second he let go.
And I don't think it was a jammy Dodger.
No. But at the very end of the episode, he kind of goes, Geronimo, and let's go. And that basically the show tonight starts where that takes off. So.
And I'm biting my tongue regarding something about that scene.
Okay. Anyway, well, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. Later.
For more news, a little bit of classic Who. Planet 55 has a minor announcement, statement, and that is that they have no announcements. People have been wondering, and they're saying, no, we're not working on any Doctor Who animations right now. We're working on non-Who related projects, and that's about it right now.
Which means that they are probably stopping it right now because they are. I believe this is the Australian group, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They are probably tentatively waiting to see if the Australian government will either lax their rubbish restrictions on the internet, or if they're going to have to move overseas.
Probably.
And whatever they're doing on the side is probably to help make funds to go overseas.
I would like to see them make Power of the Daleks.
Yes. I've enjoyed their stuff so far. It would be great to see them come back around. I'm pretty sure what they're doing right now is just waiting out their government and waiting to see what they have to do.
Yeah, I've bitched before on the stupid Australian government's caps, and I will say it again. It's kind of bogus, and it's not just businesses; it's everybody that gets capped. And in an age where gigs of data being transferred is common. I mean, as we're speaking, I'm patching an MMO. Although it seems to have stopped at the moment.
Put it this way, T-Mobile and I think other providers no longer cap out on the amount of data that you can have. It slows you down, but you can still, if I wanted to run 24/7 Pandora, I could. It would just start slowing down after 500
Yeah, that's what
megabytes.
the Australian government does. You've got, I think it's like 50 gig. But after 50 gig, they throttle you back to dial-up speeds.
Yeah, that's... Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they're that harsh in the States. That would be pretty much murder for anybody. Throttling someone that hard to that kind of speed. Although, if certain people are allowed to change legislation the way they want to, I wouldn't be surprised if it happens.
Oh. You mean how certain places that also sell cable are trying to restrict access to places like Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Just a warning, guys. I may lose connection.
Speaking of them, they found you, Randy. Run!
I just noticed I lost connection to the patch server I was working on, and the last time this happened, our cable modem burped.
Ooh.
Well, burp is better than vomit.
And burped is better than burnt.
If you're vomiting data, that would be a good thing.
Oh, no, it reconnected, so it was just a connection to the patch server. Okay.
Just the patch server being a little wonky.
And I think our next few bits of news are all various our next few are bits of deep breath time confirmations. Do we have a Latin American audience?
Not sure, but we might as well. Hello!
Okay.
Hello, Latin America!
Latin America has announced their time, which I believe is 10 o'clock Mexican time, aka midnight in Argentina. So if you're looking for the Spanish broadcast, that's about the time you'll be looking for it.
Midnight in Argentina?
Agua.
Yep. And for those who aren't aware, the Latin American version, the steps taken to make it possible for them to exist, is also what caused the various episode leaks that occurred.
Yep.
Due to poor server security.
Due to lacking attention on what should or shouldn't be sitting around.
Let's see. We, me, Matt, and myself, are in Central Time, which is UTC -6. Bill is in Eastern Time, which is UTC -5.
I think it might be -4 during daylight time.
Yep. I'm in Eastern Time.
Brazil is UTC -3.
Mexico, I imagine, would be Central Time.
Mexico is UTC -6 is
Central,
Central America. UTC -6 is Mexico City and Guadalajara.
So they'll be seeing it at about the same time.
Yeah, so that's almost definitely what they're referring to when they say 10 for the 10 o'clock Mexico time.
So they'll be seeing it at 10 o'clock the same day. That's awfully late. Or awfully early.
Yeah, it's 3 hours after we get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the film Renegado staying up late that night.
Oh. Okay, so it's at 8:15 p.m. I'm looking at our next news article.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It kind of segued after what I said. They're only getting it 2 hours after we get it.
Well, no,
Or
because the
1 hour,
8:15
5
I think
minutes.
is Eastern time. Right, the 8:15 is based. It was previously 8 o'clock Eastern time. Now I think it's 8:15.
Okay, so yeah, 7 o'clock, 7:15 is going to be Central Time.
So yeah, we get almost 3 hours ahead of
It's being
them.
pushed back 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the pre-show.
Yeah.
Probably because of the pre-show to make sure everything shuts down in time for the episode to come up without being bothered.
And it probably means that they have 15 less minutes of commercials to cram in and annoy us with.
And that's to facilitate Takeover Week, which, yes, I've been seeing ads for on BBC America now that I get BBC America. Glorious BBC America. How I love you.
I need to get back into the habit of watching them again.
Oh, God. I can tell you, I have not had cable since May of last year. I have not had BBC America since March of last year. Well, actually, no, excuse me. I haven't had BBC America since late 2010, early 2011. And that was the point that my TV, the bulb burned out on it, so I couldn't watch cable anymore. So now, I'm getting this back. I'm getting into my old habit of when I'm sitting around just, futzing in the living room, I have BBC America on. Although it's very weird, because I used to bounce between, Nicktoons, The Hub, BBC America, and a couple of other channels. And all of them just marathon stuff these days.
So it's just up to whichever marathon you're more interested in that day.
Yeah, like today I watched Comedy Central because they were marathoning South Park. And that's kind of what I felt like. On other days, I will watch BBC America because they're marathoning Top Gear. And I almost never watch The Hub anymore because all they do is marathon My Little Pony.
Which will drive Randy up the wall. So anyway, times are kind of done then.
We have one last time, which is the British one.
Oh yes, BBC One transmission time.
And I'm thinking that was 7:50 London time, right?
Air from 7:50, yeah, London time.
It's not giving a time zone. I'm assuming that would be London time.
Mm-hmm.
Which is 1 hour before GMT, I believe. It's running from 7:50 to 9:10, so they get an hour and so they're getting about 90 minutes, whereas I think for us it's running about 2 hours 45 minutes with commercials.
That's because American television is over-commercialized and rubbish. Then again, that's probably because it's not run by the government.
I remember when the Disney Channel didn't have commercials.
Wait, did you say American television is rubbish because it's not run by the government?
Well, let's face facts. We prefer a lot of BBC stuff over American television stuff.
Yes, but if I had to choose between television run by a corporation, the British government, or the American government, of the three, the American government is not the one I would pick.
Although technically, PBS was originally government run, I think they've left that long behind and are now just viewer run.
Which would you rather watch? PBS, any other American channel?
Depends upon what American channels we're talking about, because technically, BBC America is an American channel because it is run in America. It has only British Broadcasting Channel's stuff on it, but it is technically an American station. And there, the line would get shaky. Whereas, would I prefer PBS over something like, say, Fox? Yes, in a heartbeat.
I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Remember that internet burp I told you about?
It burped again?
Yep. That time I actually saw it pop up, no internet access.
Oh no.
But it reconnects relatively quickly.
But
speaking of reconnecting, we have one last bit of news, and this is probably going to be a minor one. a while ago, I think about a month ago actually, episode 2 of Series 8 was supposedly leaked, but it seemed to have only been partially leaked. Nobody on the internet could get more than about 0.5%. Whereas all of a sudden in the past week, anyone who was waiting for a torrent of that episode or was using other means to get it has now finally gotten a download. I don't know if finally is the right word, but has gotten a download after some period of waiting.
So it's apparently active again.
I wouldn't talk about this. The BBC doesn't want us to really talk about the leaks.
They don't, but we will acknowledge that they exist, and
it's
we'll leave it at that. I will honestly say that I myself have not downloaded any of the video leaks.
I've been looking at them just because it's part of my job in this podcast to have some idea of what's to come and what to talk about regarding the upcoming season.
Yeah. Well,
this week there's only 3 of us hosting. Bill is now in Guantanamo Bay.
Well, no, because now we have bump ideas for at least 2 episodes, possibly 3.
True.
We can be less unfunny.
Yeah, we can be more proactive in our bumpage. Yeah, as you noticed today, we really didn't have an idea for this bump, and with everything that happened this week, i.e. the death of Robin Williams, we didn't really feel like making one.
Yeah, it's been a pretty downer week.
Yeah.
All around. It went from a meh week to a
And I'm pretty much busting my butt at this point because I have a lot of work to do for the convention next week.
I still have a few things to pull together myself, not just convention work.
Yeah, we're all pretty much busy. I don't know about Tim, but
Tim's not going to this convention. He's fine.
Yeah, but I'm gonna miss going to the convention. I like conventions. I'm a conventional guy. Actually, I'm a pretty unconventional guy.
But you're a convention-going guy.
Yes.
And that actually, if I ever run a convention, I will name it Uncon.
Well, we already have an event. We already have a convention up here called No Brand Con, which was kind of the anti-brand name convention. Nowadays, it's just people going to drink and party. I swear.
About 50% of it, yeah. And
but No Brand Con's still a bunch of nice people. They help us a lot with our equipment.
Yes, they do.
We love them.
We love them for their help on our convention, yes. And they're welcome to help whenever they want to. Especially since we also share the foot bill for the tech. But anywho.
Yep. Anyway.
Since we've gone into a little bit of non-Doctor Who stuff, anybody have anything they want to talk about in terms of non-Who news a little bit? Or either way, I know there's...
Nanu.
Non-Who news, nothing really this at the moment. Like I said, I'm gearing up for con, and with the move and everything this month, and going to go see Guardians of the Galaxy, most of my personal budget's been eaten up.
Yeah.
So we're trying to take a light week or a light month, and just focus on the con.
I myself, I watched Ninja Turtles. I did enjoy it. There were bad parts. I guess apparently it did better in its opening weekend than Guardians of the Galaxy, from what I'm understanding, which was kind of a shock.
That's what they're saying.
I feel like it's going to fizzle out more quickly, but I might be wrong.
I'm sorry, the only reviews I've seen have not really been that positive.
I'm still, I'm not gonna go see the Ninja Turtles because the original Ninja Turtles is too sacred a cow for me.
Well, that's
depends.
The thing.
It's already been adapted about 7 or 8 times that I can think of off the top of my head. So another adaptation, if it gets 3 or 4 things wrong, every adaptation has gotten something wrong up to this point, so I can look past that.
I can't say that I have any particular qualms with the previous adaptations, but this one off the bat has just always struck me wrong.
Why?
Well, first of all, is the fact that they're getting rid of the whole fact that even the beginning of it is an accident. They are preordaining this as a thing that must happen.
That may not be true, Matt.
They're a lab experiment, Randy. They are literally a lab experiment. They aren't an accident anymore.
Have you watched the movie?
I've not actually watched the movie, but I have heard what the basic startup backstory is.
Them becoming mutants was entirely an accident. There was an experiment involved, but it had nothing. It was not remotely intended for them.
That's actually what I thought,
Bill.
That's what I thought, Bill, based on the trailers. Is from what I've gleaned, and you can tell me if I'm correct, because I'm gleaning this entirely what I saw on trailers in front of Guardians, etc., is the fact that basically somebody was basically trying to create a super soldier / superhero project to create super beings.
Actually, that would have made more sense than what the actual experiment was.
Because that's what I gleaned from what they were talking about in the trailers.
It would have made more sense if they were
That's sad.
If they were brewing up Mirakuru, it would have made more sense than what it actually was. Do you want me to say what it actually was?
It's the entire plot of the end of the movie, isn't it?
It has a lot. It's basically the entire thing to do with Shredder's plan. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, as in you want me to explain it?
I already know it.
Go ahead.
Okay, basically, they're releasing a poison that, from what it looks like, is, well, yeah, they're essentially releasing just a massive poison into New York, or planning to release a massive poisonous gas into New York City. From what it looks like, turns everyone into the Toxic Avenger. But essentially what they were trying to make was the cure to this, so that they would have, complete control of the cure and therefore have unlimited power within the city, and governments would tremble and whatever. So they never really explain if that works or not, even though they do try to go ahead with the plan, but it's this cure that makes the Turtles and Splinter.
And it's also this cure that makes them the linchpin to their entire plot. Because they don't actually have the cure. Because I believe April O'Neil's father is the one that destroyed it?
Yes, he discovered the plan and tried to destroy all their work.
So they had the poison, but they didn't have the other half, which they needed.
Okay.
But I would also add that from what I've heard, that this borrows a lot from the recent Spider-Man first movie.
Actually, I haven't seen either of since the Spider-Man reboot. I haven't watched either of those.
I haven't either, but when I hear that they point blank borrowed not only the you aren't fully an accident, you are destined to do this story subplot, and then you also add in the fact that the blood of the hero is what can be used as the cure. Then we're going to release a poison gas from a tower, which they then wreck in both movies. Ugh.
To be honest, all of that are tropes.
Yeah, exactly.
They're tropes, but then there's just copy and pasting a trope.
That sounds original in the first place. Like, that's like saying, like, pick any two unoriginal things. You're not going to say that they ripped each other off. You're just going to say they were.
They have the exact same tower crushing animation. The only one difference is that one is shot at night and the other one's shot in the day.
Matt, releasing the poison gas from a tower, wasn't that used in Cowboy Bebop, the movie?
Don't know, I haven't seen it.
That said, it does borrow a lot from the first season of the '87 Turtles, especially the first episode. It's not perfect, and I honestly think that they should have. I think they should have just added random goons named Rocky and Bebo or something. But there were definitely references. That's what I'm saying. Like, it would have just been a stupid reference. But there were definitely a good amount of references, especially that first season. There were some references to things from the following animated series as well. And then, of course, there was the fact that the turtles facing Shredder on the rooftop is frequently used as a callback to the black and white comics.
Oh, I might also add that from what I've heard,
character.
it's very obvious that they switched out Shredder not being the April O'Neil's business partner at the last minute.
I know where you're getting all this because Aaron watched the same review.
Yes, there's that, but I've also been listening to the news before then too, and I know they were planning to have him be Shredder. And the fact that he's apparently not Shredder anymore, they did that relatively fast.
That doesn't really seem to work with what I saw. I mean, I guess you could have I could see it might be possible that in a previous version of the script it was, but it doesn't really match up with what went on screen. I will say that there was a character that, well, shit, I've spoiled enough anyway, but Shredder isn't actually given a name, whereas the person he's working with is essentially given an Americanized version of Shredder's name, Orokusaki. He's working with a guy, yeah, again, I've spoiled enough, so why not? His name is Eric Sachs, and as soon as I heard that, I'm like, Eric Sachs? Orokusaki? Oh, yeah. He must be evil.
Yeah, the thing is, I believe what Matt's saying is the original spot was he was supposed to be the Shredder.
He was supposed to be, and
there was a huge fan backlash about them Americanizing the Shredder.
Yeah.
So they quickly rewrote it so that they were two different people.
Mm-hmm.
That I can see, but honestly, I think they should have just gone the next step and made him. Actually, that does make more sense because this Shredder really isn't that well developed.
Yeah, I kind of figured it'd be a little late for them to actually give the Shredder proper development
they
and
really
change
should have gone that
everything
next step and made Sachs into Stockman, even if they had already cast a white actor.
Yeah, that actually...
Yeah, what they should have done is make him a different character.
Yeah, if they'd made him Baxter Stockman, that probably would have been cool.
That would have actually worked out pretty well, actually.
I mean, there would have been people pissed off that they used a white actor for him, but
no, not really.
Would not be the first time
I think
in recent memory we've had a white Stockman.
Version, Baxter Stockman, wasn't he a white guy?
Yes, he was.
The comic version was black. The first cartoon was white. The second cartoon was black.
So he's had kind of a mixed race bag.
Yeah.
Already, for a long time, yes.
So that's not as bad as
Shredder, who has always been Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the '87 series he did not look Japanese to me. He had a Japanese name.
They didn't hint as much on the cartoon show, maybe, but it's very obvious by the name alone that he's not a normal American.
He had a Japanese name, but his face
he was Japanese in style, but you kind of get the opinion that he was Japanese American by his accent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But shit, since I've done enough spoilers, they did include the line tonight I'll dine on turtle soup. It does have a context, which does actually make some sense.
Now, did Shredder ever have turtle soup before he met the Ninja Turtles?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not that anyone knows of.
But he has frequently mentioned that he wishes to dine on it tonight. Throughout not only the cartoons, but also mentioning it a couple times in the arcade and the video games that I'm aware of.
Yes, because I was wondering, is that, isn't defeating the turtles and killing them enough? Do they have to eat them as well?
To gain their strength!
It was a catchy '80s line, a catchy '80s villain line.
Other than the fact that he used big words to call out Rocksteady and Bebop for the idiots that they were. Or that and Krang. Krang even used bigger words.
Because I'm trying to imagine Lex Luthor saying, "Tonight I dine on soup," or man.
The difference is turtle soup is a thing that real people eat, whereas Kryptonian soup is not. Like
In this
generally
reality,
grinding up an alien that looks like a human and eating soup made out of him is frowned upon. Especially by the English who were raised from 1963 onward. Hey, Doctor Who. We might as well get back to it.
Just as
Yeah,
I bring up
I
images
think
from
we tangented way too much
Turtles.
there.
We've gone a long time on this topic, so yeah.
Let's go back, and yes, our episode, as mentioned earlier tonight, is the Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe.
And nobody laughed at my line about Jackie's fantasies.
And is the second of Moffat's Christmas specials that he's essentially ripped from popular English fiction or popular English
literature.
writers. Remember a few weeks ago when we did
Christmas Carol.
A Christmas Carol, which was stolen from Charles Dickens. This one's stolen from C.S. Lewis.
Was the snowman stolen from somebody?
Maybe Jack Frost?
And speaking of stealing things, the opening shot did not remind me at all of Star Wars.
Well, first we usually do the summary. Who wants to summarize this?
Well, I summarized last time.
I did just see it today, so I can if I need to.
Okay, why don't you go ahead, Matt, then? I watched it yesterday, so I can summarize.
Okay.
But as I'm the regular summary guy, I give everyone else a chance to summarize first, if anyone wants to step forward.
So, okay, trying to be quick about this. After a only online video clip which explains what the Doctor was doing, we start up this episode with him just being in a spaceship running as it explodes. No actual in-episode explanation given. As he continues to run, he tries to, I believe, close a door to stop explosion from harming him, but it still rips apart the ship around him, and he is being tossed to Earth, but also dragging a spacesuit with him.
Bitch to follow later. I will bitch about that later.
Oh yeah, there's plenty to talk about there. He manages to somehow squeeze himself into the suit while in free fall towards Earth, and while in the suit, he is apparently protected by it and crash lands on Earth unharmed, more or less. The suit having protected him. This is apparently 1941, I believe they mentioned.
No, it is. 41 is later. I believe this is a few years.
It's 41
before.
later.
Oh, it's 3 years before. That's right. This has got to be at least 38.
38, because Britain's not at war yet.
Just yet.
War is looming on the horizon.
Mm-hmm. So it's 1938, and he crash lands as a woman is riding by on a bicycle. She comes over to investigate what happened, and she finds the Doctor, who is believing himself to be temporarily blinded, to which she mentions the fact that he has the suit on backwards.
Not so much the suit as just the helmet.
Just at least the helmet, yes, backwards. To which he quotes to her, "I was dressing in a hurry." The woman apparently leads the Doctor to her home, stops at the house, checks on the kids, tells her all that she met a man that fell from space and that she's going to help him find the police call box so he can get help. To which the kids kind of shrug and go, okay, whatever. And she goes off on her merry way, borrowing, I believe, one of the neighbor's cars.
Or her husband's car, I couldn't tell which.
I thought it was the neighbor's car, but I can't remember for sure.
She said she borrowed the neighbor's.
Yeah. She periodically seems to randomly crash into things, not only hitting the car into a pole, but also accidentally bumping the Doctor into a light pole as well. She takes him to a number of police call boxes until they finally find the right one, to which he finally unsuits inside. Upon their parting, though, he mentions to her that that he is most grateful for her help in what was essentially a rough day for him, and that if she ever really needs anything, all she needs to do is make a wish. It usually works out pretty well. It worked for him. 3 years later, the husband goes missing during World War Two. Yeah, two. I mean, 40s. Yep. So she is now sitting on this note that pretty much says that her husband has gone missing and is presumed most likely dead.
Regret to inform you telegram that is
Mhm.
pretty much still standard military boilerplate.
Yep. But she is not telling the children because it happens so close to Christmas time, which is usually a big time for them. So she is planning to wait to tell the children after Christmas is done and over with. Which they are also planning to go and visit one of the uncles of the children, who apparently lives in a big house, but also lives outside of Britain, which will get them away from the bombing. So after a short period of time, also during which the children are making wishes and stuff for Christmas, and you kind of see her silently hoping for a wish herself. They appear then a few moments later at the uncle's house. Apparently, people are already missing. I think it was like a chauffeur or something they couldn't find, and they had to walk to the house. Upon arrival, there's a problem with the door, and the doctor appears ripping down the door because apparently it's just not working right. He welcomes everyone in, and he says that he's the caretaker. He's taking care of the place while everyone is away, and has been making quote-unquote updates and fixes. So he added a number of outlandish things, including moving chairs, a tap for lemonade, this huge...
Which is an awesome idea, by the way.
Yeah, I can't argue if that tap was Hawaiian Punch.
Give me a Mountain Dew tap.
Or a Mountain Dew tap, depending upon the Mountain Dew.
I'd like a Yoo-hoo tap.
Hot water, cold water, chocolate milk.
He also shows off the children's room, which is a very crazy, bright, colorful, constantly lit up room, to which he apparently ran out of room for beds, to which he installed hammocks. Also, he prepared a small room for the Christmas tree and a special large present that he's apparently still working on up in his room, which is in the attic. Also in the attic is a couple of lights, and he's working on electric parts that are hanging out of the TARDIS, which he calls his wardrobe when questioned about it. It's just a wardrobe that he decided to paint up, quote-unquote, as a please call box. So after the first day there, the children get a bit antsy that night. The girl wanders off, and seeing Sparks, she goes to talk with the doctor. While the doctor is still working on things, the boy decides to head off and investigate the present. He opens it up to find a portal, essentially, into another world. Not only through time, but also through space. Upon going through, he sees that it's essentially a nice snow-covered area, and that there's trees. Getting close to the trees, it looks like a couple of them sprout ornaments, and upon grabbing one of them, it actually starts to get bigger and frightens him out of the area and back into the normal world and away from the present. He grabs a flashlight and heads back in again a few moments later, following footprints from the now cracked open silver orb that he originally had in his hands. The doctor apparently has some sort of detection sensor on the bits that he's working with, and figures out that the boy has been going in and out of the present that he was preparing for them. So him and the daughter both head down to find the brother. The mother also wakes up and finds the children missing and starts to look for them as well. She happens to go also into the present, seeing that it's already been opened. The boy follows the footprints all the way to a building and also encounters some wooden people, both of which stay stationary, at least at first, when he immediately looks at them. The doctor and the sister quickly close in, and the doctor is starting to put two and two together. There's some sort of weird thing going on here, that the forest is being extremely active, even slightly whispering and talking to itself between the trees, and that this must be some sort of trap, as they actually are already stepping into the trap, which is the building itself. The mother is still seeking out the children and ends up bumping into a bunch of people who are essentially checking on a plant and happen to notice her life signs. They believe her to be illegally trespassing on private property. These are apparently I forget what kind of trees they were, but there was some sort of special tree that are used continuously as some of the best fuel in the galaxy.
I believe they refer to as androzani trees, which I will talk about later.
Androzani trees.
Okay, I thought I heard that. I wasn't sure if I heard it right or not.
Androzani trees. Oh my. Yeah, that opens a bag of worms, doesn't it?
I'll talk about it later. Continue on now.
The mother at first is panicking because weird people, big, flashy, neon-colored armor, pointing guns, and she's been at wartime well enough to know what a gun is, even if it's a little beyond her. The others finally come down and start trying to talk to her, to which she starts going on about the fact that she's after trying to seek out her other people, and then also pulls out a pistol of her own after everyone else has disarmed. The man, the boss in the middle, pretty much states that he doesn't believe she would actually use the weapon, and there's nothing she could say that would convince him otherwise, to which he then states that she is seeking her children that have gone missing here. Then you actually see this wonderful reaction off of him. A few months later, they are inside the craft, and the two men are tied up while the one female crew member is trying to help her out. They manage to find the life signs of the children and the doctor and try to get a microphone feed, essentially, from where their location is to find out what's going on. Echo. The mother pretty much states that she has been at least aware of how aircraft works because her husband has taken her on a few rides and has seen how it works, and she starts to begin the crude mechanics of it after the crew members have been teleported to safety because acid rain is coming. Which brings us back to the doctor and the children. The reason why these tree people have been set up by the forest is because they're trapped to try and get somebody in there who might be strong enough to help teleport the beings of light, essentially, that are trapped within the living life forms, such as trees in this particular area. They need someone strong enough to actually handle it, to which, when the mother finally gets in, she is actually the one human strong enough to withstand it. With her in there, and with all the life forms inside of her, they take off through the time stream and are let go throughout, I guess, the galaxy inside of the time stream itself, to which she herself has to actually guide the ship then back on their own to the proper time and place, but also accidentally revealing the fact that she knows that her husband was supposedly killed, even having a brief moment where they encounter the husband actually. They don't know what happened to him, but they continue through time and space and crash land the orb Christmas morning of the day that they were about to have. So they've skipped time by at least a handful of hours. The mother is finally having to start to confess to the children that she found out a while ago that she knows that the father might be dead, but before she can continue her confession, the doctor actually pops back in and tells her that she might want to stop what she's talking about and have a step outside, because she helped her husband not only be saved from a crashing plane, but also helped him skip through time by at least a couple of months, I'm assuming. And with that, the doctor is trying to skip out. The mother does have a quick little talk with him, telling him that he should be with friends. It is Christmas after all. He finally heads back to the ponds, as he prefers to call them, realizing that he's been away for 2 years. He's kind of taken aback by it, but they also mention the fact that they always set a place for him just in case. He finally has his own teary-eyed moment, which he had remarked earlier was a very human thing. He then kind of wipes the tear away, smiles, and closes the door behind him as he walks inside to have Christmas. The end.
Why was he breathing in space?
Apparently he's related to the Batman.
I'm Batman. I breathe in space.
I can understand why Superman can breathe in space. I can understand why Frieza can breathe in space. Why can the Doctor breathe in space?
I think it's something in the water at that superhero cafe from how it should have ended.
Are you sure it's in the water, or are you thinking it might be in the coffee?
I don't know.
Cafe,
I think I think it's in the water because the doctor was probably drinking tea.
Oh yeah, that's true. He was probably drinking tea, and the others were at coffee. So yeah, maybe it's in their water filter.
Whatever. Apparently, it allows you to breathe in space because he's sitting there. He's huffing and puffing in space. Now, mind you, there was an episode of Doctor Who in the Fifth Doctor era where he gets sucked out of the TARDIS into space. He didn't breathe while he was there. He was holding his breath the entire time.
Which is something Time Lords can do.
Yes.
Because he's a Time Lord. Of course he can do that.
Yes. He can hold his breath for all time.
He could also use a cricket ball to bounce himself between ships, but that's another story.
Now granted, just last night I was watching an episode where I could have sworn I saw a vampire who doesn't breathe, huffing and puffing, losing his breath. So
still, Moffat, laws of physics, please.
That aside, that rubbish animation while he's trying to get into the suit. Was that thing not the twitchiest, ugliest thing in this episode?
The whole concept is freaking stupid.
It's very, very highly ridiculous, yes.
Yes, it's over-the-top stupid. I mean...
There's making an entrance, and then there's having a really stupid entrance.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if they had changed it so that, he's stuck in that room, there's basically, a porthole or the equivalent of an airlock going down, and he sees the suit at the last minute. You look there, and then you see the suit diving down. I could freaking buy that.
Right.
I could see it, I could buy it, but him struggling to get in the suit as he's entering the planet and therefore should be burning to a cinder, that should have been the end of Matt Smith's story and possibly the Doctor's right there. Except Moffat decided to deliberately ignore every single law of physics.
Because he's the Doctor, he can do
that.
Well,
if you're in a spacesuit, you can plummet through a large amount of Earth's gravity and land face first without suffering even a scratch.
Well, it was also apparently supposed to be...
There was a line to explain it, is the fact that the suit had some kind of inertial absorbing ability.
That, and it's also supposed to also be capable of fixing and repairing and healing people.
Mm-hmm.
But I still call that a huge freaking stretch.
Yeah, yes. There's having a useful thing that's a little hard to believe, but you can suspend your disbelief. And then there's a magic suit.
It's not the magic suit. Like I said, having a suit with that inertial absorbing thing, because mind you, in the Third Doctor era, the Doctor's brakes on Bessie ran on inertial energy. So it has a precedent.
Well, there's that, and there's the
fact that he didn't seem to be in any sort of pain, and the fact that we know that impact with things can hurt him because he walked into a street lamp and it hurt him.
Yeah.
Well, that particular bit of stupidity was also Moffat being not bright.
There is the stretching of one's imagination, and then there's just plain simple Michael Baying it.
Yeah.
And covering the fact that it starts off with explosions.
Michael Bay, Matt, because that takes us back to Turtles, and I don't want to go backwards.
But the fact that they start this with explosions. The only thing that they didn't do is shoot it like porn.
I think basically what happened was Moffat wrote a story. He's like, all right, the Doctor is wandering around with his helmet on backwards. And then someone asked him, why is the Doctor in a spacesuit with the helmet on backwards?
Because he fell out of a spaceship. Yeah.
Now, if... okay, so I'm going to write the scenario. Like I said. So the Doctor, like I said, the Doctor's in the ship, it's exploding. The exploding is chain reacting from the other side of the ship, heading his way. So he's in imminent danger of getting blown to bits.
Yes.
He's at the other end of the ship. He has this, basically a room with an emergency airlock. He's trapped. He doesn't know what to do. At the last minute, he spies this, basically cabinet that has the suit in it. He smiles. Cutscene to the Doctor, basically falling through re-entry in the suit.
Why was the suit falling through space on its own anyway?
The explosion. It blew up the walls, and when the Doctor tried to grab it, it fell.
Yes.
Yes.
So he dove after it.
Yes.
Maybe the explosion blew the atmosphere on the ship onto the Doctor, and the atmosphere decided to stare on the Doctor because the Doctor is a nice guy. And that's
laws of physics don't work that way. Laws of physics do not work that way.
They do in a Moffat script.
Got a hand to him there.
No, Moffat just
this
doesn't
is an
pay attention to little
alien
things like
ship. It's not an Earth atmosphere. So maybe the alien atmosphere works that way.
No, it still doesn't work that way. Moffat's just a bad writer. Can anybody say bad writing? But anyway, as I was saying, so he's falling through the atmosphere in the suit. It impacts, so there should be a crater. That was the other thing. I don't think there was a crater involved.
Oh no, there was a huge crater around him.
Okay, so there was a huge crater. As that happens, you see all lights on the suit go out.
A few seconds
so
later,
suit
yes.
Protected him from the fall to re-entry. What?
Yes, it happened. Yeah, the lights went out afterwards. Sorry.
Yes. Then the suit basically dies.
Mm-hmm.
It did its function, and that was all it had the power for. Because then, if you hit the street lamp, it would hurt. If Moffat had written it that way, could you have seen it?
Maybe. Also, I would have been able to see it if maybe he looked at the suit, smiled, and just as he's in the suit, he picks up another device. He goes, inertial dampers, yes, and attaches it to the suit. Because then we would get it already.
If a suit is made for an emergency re-entry like this,
we don't know that it is, though. It just makes it still look ridiculous. All we need is one quick throwaway line that he jumps out the airlock.
It would help if we knew, what the suit was designed for, what type of species it was designed to carry, anything at all about the suit.
Okay, now you're getting way too far into it, Bill. Now you're getting into Star Trek physics.
Yeah, species doesn't enter into it.
No, but I'm just saying, he's fighting an alien species that's apparently invading, and they just happen to have a humanoid suit around. That doesn't bother anybody else?
No. Because it's simply lucky.
It's simply lucky, and God, how many times have we had humanoid creatures on the show?
Yes.
I can throw away the disbelief that's a humanoid race. That's very easy in Doctor Who. Believe me, we've seen enough of them.
Yeah, I can think of the amount of humanoid enough that suit would fit them. I can't count them all on fingers.
Maybe it's because I've spent more time in Star Wars than any other franchise.
There's enough of them in Star Wars, man.
All of these thousands of different body types, skimming through your average source book, and I'm like, yeah, most of these would not wear a spacesuit a human could wear.
Well, some of them might actually have an extra large spacesuit.
Tentacles and...
I mean, also, like I said, going into Star Trek physics, how many Star Trek species are also humanoid?
Yeah.
Like the majority of them. So, I can deal with the spacesuit being vaguely humanoid. That does not break my suspension of disbelief.
And not only that, how many species in Doctor Who are not only humanoid, but actually look like humans?
A few.
Quite a few.
Yeah.
Sometimes they look at most humans with makeup.
The whole thing about Doctor Who's all about monsters. Usually the invading ones are not humanoid at all.
Shark people.
Sometimes they're, plants with vaginas for a face, and sometimes they're other things.
And sometimes they do look very human.
Yeah.
It's a mixed bag.
Maybe it was androgomes. The androgomes were invading.
Maybe it was the androgomes. Maybe it was the race from the Leisure Hive, whose name escapes me at the moment. But they used to be a warrior culture.
Yeah, if they would have actually
man.
mentioned what race this was and just made it a classic Who race that was humanoid, that would have easily just explained everything.
It might have been mentioned,
Except for the inertial dampers, which they needed to bring up.
in the pre-episode, but I haven't watched that pre-episode in a while.
Yeah, I have never seen it at all, so... Oh... So yeah, the first act is relatively silly. Echo again.
And then we get I'm still not sure if this is a female driving joke or if this is just, no, she's just personally a very terrible driver.
It hits...
her family doesn't have a car, so she's not used to driving.
There's that, but it also hints to me that even the Doctor references the idea that she seems to run into a lot of things. So maybe she's just... one of her character traits is that she's a bit clumsy. I mean, the fact that she doesn't seem overly shocked by an alien asking for a little bit of help to find his landcraft that looks like a police call box is not normally something you'd expect.
He's looking for his spacecraft. He just
he just mentions that he's looking for a police call box, but the fact that he mentions that he's point blank an alien, a spaceman, even.
Well, he fell from the sky in a spacesuit. That's a little obvious.
Yeah, just a bit.
But the fact that she's not freaking out about this, man.
That's something with the character, and I was going to bitch about that later. Is the fact that she seems very nonplussed about almost any experience.
Except for when people pull out guns.
Yeah, because later in the thing, she basically has all the lights going into her head and stuff, and she's not freaking out there either.
Yeah, she is a relatively calm, even-keeled person unless guns are involved.
Yeah, it's just... I don't know, it just made the character a little disbelievy for me.
A little bit, but there are technically people kind of like that out there. Technically.
In Moffat's world, women aren't fazed by anything.
Except for guns and
I'm
violence.
going to talk about that a little later.
We'll get to that topic.
So, yeah, the opening, and, the rest of the period piece setting in the beginning was okay. I mean, Britain on war, it was pretty much straightforward, but, if it's one thing the BBC can do, it's a period piece.
Mm-hmm. They can usually pull that out of their hat relatively fast.
The Doctor was
Especially if
very
they're on
careful
personal
not to go
history.
near Germany or not to go near Berlin or London and run into himself.
Anyway, I believe the follow-up scene we get is her with, like I said, the standard military boilerplate. We regret to inform you that on such and such a time,
Your husband disappeared.
Your husband was missing in action. He is assumed killed. Or, his plane was flying over the English Channel at the time. It vanished.
I think there was something like it is presumed due to enemy action.
Yeah. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Our deepest sympathies with you. Such and such and such. CNC of the military. As actually written by one of his secretaries. There are literally, in any war, a few million of those messages that go out. I mean, the U.S. military did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
There is a famous story in the U.S. Navy of 5 brothers who all volunteered in World War II on the on the agreement with the U.S. military that they would serve together. And they all served on the same ship, and that ship was sunk. So, could you imagine being the person that got those kind of letters 5 times over? And that is why the U.S. military now has a standard policy that siblings do not serve on the same ship.
Is that where they got the idea for Saving Private Ryan?
Stories like that, maybe.
Quite possible.
Yeah, there's probably a couple of stories like that throughout the time.
There are a few, but like I said, it is the reason why.
They keep them separated.
Yeah, there is actually, I believe, a USS the Sullivans now, in reference to those brothers. It's a famous story. I believe they're from Iowa. I'm just trying to remember what ship they served on.
By the way, looking at the spacesuit, he almost looks like an old school Marvin. I'll have you all know I'm very depressed.
It did look a bit antiquated for a ship that's traveled intergalactic distances.
Well, it screams to me of like 1960s or 70s BBC sci-fi show, which is not bad, considering this is 1940s.
Just it being Doctor Who and them under a budget crunch, I'm surprised it didn't become the orange suit.
True.
Right.
The spacesuit from the previous season.
But which, in that case, where did the aliens get that suit, though? The Doctor would have had to start in that suit.
I'm just saying, it was a possibility of them reusing and redressing said suit.
Mm-hmm. Especially since they're going to be bringing it back this next season from what we've seen of still images.
So, yeah, after that, the family departs for the house of their Uncle Digby.
Digby, that's what it was. Digby, yeah.
Which is a side reference to Professor Diggory, whose home the 4 children go to in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I didn't get that the first time I watched it. I got it the second time I watched it.
Well, the fact that they even go to a big house like that is already screaming that particular story, yes. And then mentioning the TARDIS as a wardrobe.
Speaking of the TARDIS, is that the first time we've ever seen the TARDIS used to make a portal?
Used to make a portal? I don't think we ever did it in the classic series, but
I think it's the first time we've seen it used in that particular way.
In the sense that somebody didn't even have to walk into the console room, they just literally walked from one planet to another by means of TARDIS technology.
I think there was something similar in a previous episode, but it was.
I think there's been a couple of things that were somewhat similar in David Tennant's era, but not exactly 100% the same.
I'm not even talking David Tennant's era. I was thinking more John Pertwee era. Back when he was experimenting with the TARDIS.
Oh, and it turned into another dimension, yeah.
No, not that one, because that actually had the console. But there was one where there was kind of a time loop he accidentally set up in the doorway to his lab in Unit because of something he was futzing with the console.
Right, okay.
Where
the one where he came face to face with himself.
Yeah, where the Doctor or Joe walked in at the beginning of the serial, and then the thing concluded at the end of the serial.
Was that Daleks, or was that a different episode?
I don't remember. It's been a long time since I've watched Third Doctor stuff.
It's been a while for me too. I can't quite remember
that
one.
I remember that particular scene. It sticks out in my head. but which particular serial it's related to, I don't know. But as that's early, and I think that's before they even had full chroma key technology. There was no real special effect involved in that. But you can kind of extrapolate that the same kind of thing was going on. That there was something hooked into the TARDIS console, or he was using parts of the TARDIS console to create the device that was operating the present.
As he does.
Kind of makes me wonder if he can, have the TARDIS have an exit, an entrance in one place and an exit somewhere else, and just be anchored in both.
Technically speaking, it's not supposed to. And I'm going into theoretical TARDIS technology here, so I'm going to take a couple minutes. As we know, the TARDIS doesn't exist in our dimension. It's basically when you walk through the TARDIS doors, you're walking into a relative dimension, basically a pocket dimension. That's the whole police box is basically, how do I say this?
Crammed into?
No, it's not crammed into, because it's projected. The police box is actually projected from this dimension into ours by means of, I believe they used to call it an outer plasmic shell. So what we see as the police box is basically nothing but an extension of this universe into ours. And therefore, when the TARDIS dematerializes, it basically removes that extension, travels along the course of the vortex, and then builds its extension someplace else. So to do what Bill wants to do, where the TARDIS would have two entrance exits in different areas, it would have to exist in two parts of the vortex simultaneously. It would have to attach itself to two portions of our universe at the same time.
But at the same time, isn't it attached to two portions of the universe in time and space in order to create that trick in this episode?
In a way, I'm thinking...
But it's more like using the dimensional abilities to just open another gateway just between one place and another.
I think probably what he's doing is not true TARDIS technology, but he's using TARDIS parts to build it. And that would be what he created was more like a chronoton tunnel, as seen in like Revelation Daleks, where they had the tunnel.
So you're basically saying he's just borrowing various parts that would be used in both items.
Correct.
To create that.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
It's not a true TARDIS effect, but it's
it works similarly.
A lesser effect that he's using higher gear for.
He's making a time corridor.
Like things like a relative dimensional stabilizer might be used in both things to keep aspect and scale correct.
Mm-hmm. Also, the fact that there's a little bit of a time differential, but that's another little wonky thing. Time travel.
Well, like I said, chronoton tunnel.
Speaking of which,
connecting a warehouse in 1980s London to a 25th century spaceship.
Speaking of time travel, did those Androzanians have Artron energy detectors?
What makes you say that?
Because they scanned her and they said, I think she's a time traveler.
Her style of dress alone might actually
give that away.
Yeah.
She's wearing wool. They probably don't wear that much wool anymore in space.
Yeah. Probably because, they basically used mostly synthetics, and there weren't many synthetics in operation in 1941. So that plus the fact that she seemed very disoriented equals time traveler.
And it's probably not the first time they've found one.
It is. They also mentioned that this was essentially the 51st century. So,
course,
you know,
because
time
everything is set in
agency,
the 50. Is anything not set in the 51st century lately?
it seems to be a favorite of Moffat and RTD. Although RTD did give us other times, like the Second Great and Bountiful Human Empire, and
The year 5 billion
Earth.
billion.
Yeah. Moffat in particular seems to like the 51st century. But the only reason I'm mentioning this is because that meant that they might be familiar with time agents.
True.
Um,
Which is another
I'm wondering
thing
if
under
there was a
verification.
reason he chose the 51st century for this particular episode. He did decide to use the fact that the people dealing with this forest were from Androzani Major.
Speaking of which, according to the TARDIS data core, Androzani trees are from an unnamed planet.
Yes.
I would name that planet Androzon.
No, you see, Androzani is already a planet in the Doctor Who universe. Actually, it's a system consisting of two planets, Androzani Major and Androzani Minor. It is possible that this particular planet is another planet in the same system.
Or relatively close to it.
Relatively close to it. I'm actually seeing if Caves of Androzani, which is where we first meet Androzani Major and Androzani Minor, was ever given a date.
That's what I'm looking for right now, actually, and I'm not seeing one yet.
Still, the fact that they made a reference to a relatively decent Fifth Doctor episode, and matter of fact, his last series episode.
Okay, I'll you guys briefly for a second.
I was just mentioning the fact that I find it amusing that they made a throwback to a popular Fifth Doctor episode.
Yeah, that's better. You said relatively decent, and I'm like, it is largely considered to be the best episode of Classic Who, right?
Yeah, it is considered one of the best episodes of Classic Who. I would not consider it to be but it is one of them.
It depends on your benchmark in terms of production, like in terms of simple production quality, it probably is.
In terms of production quality during that period, yeah, it's probably one of the better ones.
I mean, Talons of Wang Chiang, I would actually argue might be better than this one.
I thought that was like a yellow face thing.
Vaguely. A little bit. But that was also because they're dealing with that particular time period. And also people in the after post-World War II were kind of, a little that way.
I'm not finding any dates for that story.
I would probably argue that the Androzani people we saw are probably from an earlier time period than Caves.
I would probably argue that too, which might also explain why they took down all those trees, and then maybe, just maybe, why one of the Androzani planets is now pretty much a wasteland.
No, it really doesn't, because Androzani Minor was always a wasteland, so...
Did they say that?
It's something to do with the planetary orbit. It was mentioned in Caves that because of the orbit, it takes it close enough to the sun that it starts those freaking blood boils or whatever.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure on that one.
Yeah. It's why they've never colonized Androzani Minor. But like I said, that doesn't exclude that there might be another planet in the system. Androzani Major and Minor sound like they're probably twin planets. And this one could be, just slightly further out in orbit, like Mars to us.
Or they were the first two found in that system, assumed to be alone, and then they searched a little bit more.
No, it actually lists Androzani Minor as one of twin planets in the Sirius star system. So probably this is another planet in the Sirius system. There was no.
That is
There was no.
that is the name of the actual real star, isn't it?
There is a star called Sirius. It's the dog star.
Right. Must be pretty
One of two stars in a binary system. So. This could also be in the other star in the Sirius system. Regardless, there is quite the possibility that this is something nearby that the people from Androzani went on colonized. There was no corporate logos or anything on the tree farming ship, was there? Or the thing?
Not any that I paid a lot of attention to, but I wasn't really looking for them either.
It does mention that the people of the Sirius system were Earth colonists. Sirius 4, which was probably on the other star, was an independent Dominion planet by 2540, and this is, 2,000 years later.
If there were any logos, the TARDIS data core doesn't mention them.
Okay, I was just wondering if he made a reference to the Sirius conglomerate or not.
Because that would have helped out a little bit with that theory.
What's that?
Because that would have helped out a little bit with that theory.
Yeah, but, oh well.
Oh well.
It would have been nice to have that kind of, with what they were doing. It would have been interesting.
Actually, let's see if I can find some pictures. I am actually supposed to be looking for pictures after all. Since we are talking about them, let's see if I can find some decent shots of the suits. Go on.
The Doctor Who episode where, yes, the Fifth Doctor holds his breath in space and uses the cricket ball is the episode 4 to Doomsday, which is the second Fifth Doctor episode. And it's basically he's able to hold his breath for a longer time due to his respiratory bypass system.
Caves of Androzani mentions that aspect of his biology as well.
I'm not seeing anything on the suits, but I'm only getting more or less just a front look too.
But again, that doesn't explain him huffing and puffing in there.
Yeah. Oh, here, this should be a decent quality photo. Yeah, really close up, I'm not seeing any logos on their armor at all. So nothing on their armor.
Okay.
I would add, though, that the armor does remind me a bit of Warhammer 40k.
It reminded me a bit, and I have been watching the 6th season on BBC America in the past week. The armor reminded me a bit of the acid armor that they used in Series 6 for the people that were in the episode with the flesh.
Oh. So-so.
I'm wondering if they redressed that armor.
Maybe. They may have redressed it and then added a different helmet and stuff to it.
Yeah.
Oop. I completely just killed my tab. Reopen, close tab. Anything in the chat? Nothing in the chat. Chat's been quiet again today. I'm not seeing any locals still.
Other than that, I mean, some of the stuff that the Doctor did to modify the house was brilliant, and other of it was just absolutely stupid.
I have to say that what I feel from that particular sequence is that he's acting like an 8-year-old again, but he's doing it purposely because he's around these children he's only going to be around temporarily. He might also be one step ahead of the mother, and he already knows the father's gone and is trying to do the best he can to make the kids happy for now.
I would kind of assume, based on the setup with the whole Make-A-Wish thing, that he got a psychic paper message, something like to the effect of, make the children happy because they will be sad soon, to, her subconscious speaking or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then, he actually kind of worked it out as they were talking.
I think so, although I would point out that this is another episode that suffers from Moffat's writing the Doctor as being particularly weak. As you notice, the Doctor doesn't solve any problems in this episode.
He starts to figure out things and explain it, but yeah, he doesn't actually solve them out himself.
He argues with the trees over whether he's weak or not.
That's about it, yeah.
That's basically his contribution to the climax.
And a drink.
Whoa, what the heck?
Mert?
Something popped up in my speakers. I think because I'm on the TARDIS wiki, some of their wiki news stuff occasionally has audio in it. It pisses me off. Okay, I'm closing this. Anyway, no, it's the Doctor instigates it by creating the present in the first place, which, starts the whole situation. But he doesn't really solve it. He basically leads the children around and gets them wrapped up in the situation, and the mother is the solution.
And she happens to just bumble in on it by accident. Sorry, what were you saying, Bill?
I'm making a Narnia reference, but I said he does not give them any Turkish delight.
Yeah, there's no magic Doctor solve the problem thing here, which, Moffat tends to none of the Doctor Who episodes that Moffat writes tend to have the Doctor solving the problem usually. There are very rare episodes where it does.
Which, again, starts to get on my nerves, as this is supposed to be a show about the Doctor. It is called freaking Doctor Who.
Having the occasional episode where he doesn't solve it and someone else does is good, but there should be a good, 70-30 ratio at the very least.
Yeah, at the very least, because, again, he is supposed to be the main character.
I'd kind of settle even for 70-30 the other way. I mean, it's not like we haven't had times in the show where, the Doctor was the mystery and it was more about the companions, and that's fine.
But that was also when the Doctor was a mystery.
Yeah, but, I mean, you can still have the Doctor come through as a mystery. It's all how what the situation is and how he's written. But he should still, at the very least, the companion's 90% of the way there, and then he comes through with that last 10% a good portion of the time.
Well, let's look. As much as I dislike the episode for other reasons, the first episode of the new series, Rose. The solution that solves the problem is that the antiplastic gets dipped into the nesting consciousness, destroying them and stopping the Autons from rampaging, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Doctor was the one that provided the antiplastic, but Rose did the actual work, making it a collaborative effort.
Yes.
Right.
That works.
That works. That still technically counts as the Doctor had something to end this.
Yes.
Yeah, whereas in Moffat stories, it's a lot of the Doctor is going off in one completely wrong direction, and the companion fixes the problem going in a completely different direction.
Not even always the wrong direction. He just has no clue what's actually going on. Whereas the other companions are usually figuring it out before him.
Yes, the companions enabling the Doctor to solve it is not a new concept. It's something that, Old Who did. But mind you, in Old Who, it was mostly an incidental thing. The companions would say something. And RTD did this very well during, the Donna Noble era, where it would be something sideways and not entirely related to the problem the companion would say, and the Doctor would home in on it.
And it clicks, and then he finally has a plan.
Yes.
Whereas this just, no.
Yeah. It makes having this happen repeatedly makes the Doctor seem incompetent.
Or as the word we were using a year or so ago, senile. Like
Yes.
he's lost.
Yeah, and that's kind of my issue with the Moffat era is the Doctor seems off. He seems to be senile. He seems to be. It's up to the companions to save the problems the Doctor gets people into. Because yes, the Doctor starts this by getting everybody into the problem. If you remember the first Doctor era, at least for the first season, the Doctor would get them into the problem, but would also be the one to pull them out of it.
In the end, yes.
And that's kind of the issue here, is the Doctor's getting them into trouble, and then they have to get themselves out of it. Making the Doctor more trouble than he's worth. And yet, River's song is constantly singing his praises as the guy that solves all the problems.
Despite the fact that she's the one that usually keeps hugging the show and solving it herself every time she's on screen.
Yeah. But this is another episode where the same thing happens. He puts everybody in danger with his magic trip to another world. And, mind you, it's even worse if you think about it. The Doctor was planning on opening this present Christmas morning.
To be fair, it would have been fixed. Oh yeah, you're saying the acid would have already
probably destroyed the doorway,
or would be happening. Could you imagine going through the present immediately burning to death in acid rain?
In other words, what was it? 2 or 3 episodes earlier, the girl who waited, that big lecture that Rory gave him, the Doctor learned absolutely nothing.
Yes.
I was just wondering, was the throwing in of acid rain a nod to the Christmas classic Scrooged?
I'm not sure.
I doubt it.
But
as Moffat seems to more want to steal from British writers than Americans butchering British work.
In this case, the acid was more about battery acid, because it would use the acid rain to melt down the trees to make batteries.
Mm-hmm. Acid plus wood pulp or something. Anyway.
I just got that idea, watching the episode today.
I haven't seen Scrooge in a really long time. I should actually watch that again. I enjoyed that movie.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not bad. I like the movie. It's just, it doesn't seem to be Moffat's style. He seems to
No. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be Moffat's
classics.
style. And by the way, I
haven't seen him lift directly from Douglas Adams. But RTD did, so he might be staying away from it.
A little bit, yeah. By the way, I did find the giant robot. Not a single logo on that either.
Okay.
Because it's a bland, yellowish black thing.
It would have been nice to have reference to the Sirius Corporation.
It really would be nice to have at least a little hint of something to give the fans, but that's RTD for you. He doesn't think about that.
Mm-hmm. He makes it. He mentions it's Androzani, but makes absolutely no other reference to the Androzani culture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that kind of works how
a series full of references and possibilities, and he uses only one when he could be throwing a dozen at the fans who would get it.
Like the Metabilis 3 crystal that was there specifically as a reference and not particularly used to hypnotize.
Or to remove hypnosis, which was what the crystal was actually used for.
Right. Oh yeah, that's right. He didn't hypnotize the guy in.
Yeah, the boss did the hypnotizing,
him.
And he used the crystal to restore the brain patterns. Remove brainwashing, essentially. I know my Third Doctor era. I just haven't watched it in a while.
So anyway, we should probably hurry this on a little bit.
Are we getting close to the end here?
I think we are.
Yeah, I think you're about right.
So, a couple things to cover yet. One of the things I want to cover quickly, the tree people.
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought they were pretty decent looking.
They were.
I like the tree people.
They're a good rubber suit.
Hmm?
They're a darn good rubber suit.
Yep.
Yeah. They looked very nice, very authentic. As you know, what would have been looked like a mobile carved statue. That they looked relatively nice.
Mm-hmm.
And the face, because I'm not sure how much of it was rubber suit and how much of it was CGI, Matt. Because the faces moved and changed expressions.
I'm thinking that some of the expression changes and face movement might have been the actual CG, but it's very obvious that a lot of it was suit.
As much as I'd like to think they were puppets, they were probably CGI. At least those actions.
I'm pretty sure that like the close-ups where it's the only time you really see them animated like that is when they really use the CG.
Yeah, although part of me, knowing Doctor Who continuity, was wondering if they might be the ancestors of the forests of Cheen.
Yeah.
Sadly not, but I do believe they made a reference to it.
There was a side reference to a doctor mentions a tree that fancied him, referring to the End of the World episode.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I'm wondering. I was wondering if they were, directly ancestral. It would have been kind of cool if that's the way Moffat had gone with it.
But of course, Moffat will never explain it. The robot was also kind of decent looking, although we didn't get to have much screen time with it.
Yeah, it looked cool. It looked like your standard giant mecha. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would have liked to see some more with that.
Anything else we need to throw out there? It's nice that they... I will say that for all the qualms we've been mentioning about this episode, the plot doesn't hurt my brain.
It's better than A Christmas Carol.
Yes, it's definitely a step up from the previous Christmas story.
Yes, it is.
Also the fact that all the loose ends tie together in the end.
Yes. It does resolve itself relatively nicely. Kind of fixes a few things.
Mm-hmm.
And the situation is generally better than it was at the beginning, which is nice.
Yes, which makes for a nice, happy story, which we need one of those once in a while.
Yeah, especially for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We don't need depressing on Christmas.
Also, the end visit with the Ponds.
Yes. That was a very nice touch.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that he was going, oh, the happy tears, such a human thing, and then he has one of his own, finally.
Amy Pond is the only person that answers the door on Christmas Day with a water gun in her hand.
Oh, I would love to, too. Especially if I'm getting
sure
constantly bothered by... Especially if I'm getting constantly bothered by carolers. I might even go beyond the water pistol at that point, if it's been happening multiple times.
You would go full Addams Family, Matt.
Yes! Yes, I would! Da-da-da-dun! Da-da-da-dun!
Well, if you remember that opening where they were pouring, boiling oil on the carolers?
Yep! You just see them on the roof stirring the pot! And then they fade into black just as they're about to start tipping it forward.
See, I would go Christmas caroling, but I would go Christmas caroling Bob Rivers.
That might be the only saving grace you might have on that one. 12
So,
Pains
I'd
of
be
Christmas.
singing such wonderful Christmas classics as Yellow Snow.
12 Things of Christmas, it's such a pain to me.
Walking around in women's underwear.
Yeah, there's that one.
So, how would you feel if Christmas carolers doing that, Matt?
They get off on twisted humor, so they're fine. They're fine. They'll get by.
But
you have to realize that as soon as I got sick and tired of Christmas music when I was about 13, that's the kind of music I went to.
That's generally what I listen to prior to Christmas. For some reason, I go through a metamorphosis on December 25th, and I go from listening to Bob Rivers to listening to Bing Crosby.
I don't mind Bing Crosby when he's within the week, and I don't mind at least a little bit of Christmas music here and there throughout the beginning of the month.
Honestly, if I'm at home on Christmas Day, I'm watching Christmas slasher movies nonstop.
I should get Black Christmas one of these days. I really should.
Now, mind
And
you,
also, I should watch more Gremlins.
I will watch Christmas movies up to the day, and I'm a big fan of classic Christmas movies.
That being said, for the less morbid stuff, I do like A Muppet Christmas Carol as well as the Disney version as well.
No, I mean I watch like Irving Berlin's White Christmas, Holiday Inn, Miracle on 34th Street.
You ever see Christmas in Connecticut?
I don't think I have that one. I'd probably watch it if I had it. But it's something my mother and I used to share, so it's kind of sentimental for me.
Well, that's good. Good thing.
But no, even beforehand though, it was just like I had certain rituals. Before Christmas Eve, it's nothing but Weird Al and Bob Rivers. Because largely Bob Rivers with It's Christmas at Ground Zero and The Night Santa Went Crazy thrown in.
Actually, I do have 2 seasonal regulars near and or on Christmas. They're both Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah. The night before Christmas, it is either A Christmas Carol, either as read by Patrick Stewart or as acted by Patrick Stewart.
Either which will be marvelous.
There's both. One's on DVD, and I used to have the audiobook. Anyway. But yes, Christmas Day is all traditional music, and I don't know why. It just has to be.
But
and
yeah.
then I can go back to being irreverent the day after.
But
anyway,
Santa Claus Conquers the Martians.
And ever since 2005, Christmas has also involved Doctor Who.
Sure.
Just about.
Now, other than the method of transportation, is there anything Narnia related in this episode?
There is a line that the Doctor says when he's taking the girl around is, what do they teach them in schools? Which is very close to what something the professor from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe says to the kids when they're talking about how Lucy was telling this fib about finding a world in a wardrobe.
There were a few odd references.
Yeah, there were a few tiny ones here and there.
They were mostly shout-outs. Like, in front of the tower that they were in was apparently a light post. But it was mostly used as in-jokes than anything else.
And also, the tower itself is a little reminiscent of the Ice Queen's domain, more or less, too.
I haven't read a Narnia book since the 90s, so I was like...
Well, I'm going off of both versions of Lion and the Witch that I've seen on video.
Yeah, it was mostly just joking references, and I think at the time this came out, wasn't the Chronicles of Narnia movies kind of a big thing?
I
think they were on their second or third movie by that point, yeah. Or had finished their second or third one. I think they might have finished the third one by this point.
But no, there wasn't much Narnia in this.
Not too much blatant Narnia, no.
Yeah, and I liked that more because
I was wondering if there were like plot parallels, like something to justify the title type of deal.
Not really. And I like it better that it wasn't because, let's face it, Moffat writing A Christmas Carol was a horrible version of A Christmas Carol.
Yeah. So let's face facts. The fact that he took only a few little tidbits and just did the rest on his own was a much better plan.
Yes, even if it did turn out to be a typical Moffat plot.
And I will say that while, again, we had some issues about this, overall, my general feeling is kinda,
Yeah. Bordering on decent.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's go to our final thoughts.
Yep.
There's only 4 of us this time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, Tim, you're up first.
Okay, I'm gonna break convention with myself and say I absolutely loved this episode. It put a smile on my face and a song in my heart I love Christmas. I love happy endings. I loved the sheer impossibility of the Doctor breathing in space. That was a big bonus for me because it was like, who cares? It's Christmas. It's a Christmas miracle. And so many things reminded me of my childhood, and it was a big plus for me.
All right, Tim. Thank you very much, and you can remove your lips from Stephen Moffat's cock at any time.
Ouch!
Oh.
Oh!
Yeah. I didn't love this episode because it was written by Stephen Moffat. I would have loved this episode if it was written by anyone.
No, I'm sorry. It was just the whole "I love him breathing in space" bit was just like, wow, that's kind of on a kiss-up level there. All right, Matt, your opinion.
Other than the very, very iffy beginning, which you kind of tilt your head at for a while, it does start to build up, and it starts to be quite a nice, interesting little character of its own. It's far superior than some of the previous Moffat Christmas stuff, and actually even superior to some of the later Russell T stuff too. Let's face it, he started to kind of lose his touch on that a little bit. The suits were really good. The CG, which was used sparingly, thankfully, helped also with making it look pretty decent. Again, aside from the opening bit with the weird twitchy falling animation. The Doctor is acting a little bit kiddish, but at the same time he's also trying to figure things out too. The main reason he starts acting kiddish, at least when he first introduces himself to everybody, is because, again, he's a step ahead, and he knows he's trying to make these kids happy. So he's putting on the whole childish act overload because let's to entertain the kids. They're going to need a lot of happy for right now. Because this Christmas might be very disappointing, but we have to make up for it. The mother character is a little kind of headspacey, but she has a few really decent parts here and there. I also like the fact that all the different strands of the story finally come together in one nice cohesive whole and make for a nice happy ending. I also love the fact that we at least get a little cameo of the Pawns and a couple of shots at the Doctor for being 2 years late. In the face, in the cold, in the snow. Also, the "I'm not hugging first, neither am I" part was kind of fun too for a few moments.
Okay. You done, Matt?
And just ending on the teary-eyed bit was also pretty good too. Done.
Okay. Bill?
The thing with this episode, there's less strong moments to dislike. There's not that much really bad issue. There's some poorly thought out lines. There's the issues we've discussed. The thing is, to balance it out, there's not really all that much really great about this episode. There's some good ideas, but they're not as powerful as the good ideas in worse episodes. Like the good ideas of the Christmas Carol stand out to me a lot more than the good ideas in this one, and it's one of those episodes where it just doesn't seem to have enough to recommend it, even though there's not that much to complain about. This is an episode I really think would have been saved by having a companion, just so that the Doctor has someone to play off of and keep it entertaining, whereas I mainly just spend this episode trying to make sure that I'm paying attention so that I don't completely space out. So it's not that I dislike the episode, it's just, I don't know, okay, but kind of boring.
You're not feeling it.
Yeah.
Is that everything, Bill?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Other than the beginning bit, which, as I've mentioned, I found pretty atrocious, a lot of this tends to fall into Moffat formula. Again, the Doctor doesn't really solve things. It's up to the people around him. There is a few ham-fisted Moffat women empowerment scenes with the men being late.
I wish we had another half hour to talk about, because Moffat trying to write women power is really something worth talking about.
Yeah, but we've talked about it repeatedly before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
We have
and-
covered a
and
bit.
Talk about it
This episode
again.
specifically, yeah.
We will probably talk about it next week, because next week is another Moffat episode. Anyway.
Flail like a fish.
Anyway. Yeah, he makes some ham-fisted attempts at that, and that kind of does detract from the episode a bit. As a character drama, however, this one is relatively strong. Other than the mother, who, like I said, seems to be a little out of it when it comes to, extreme situations. She doesn't have much of a reaction threshold, really. The rest of the characters, the kids in particular, were all very well done.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike, kids that we would see in the upcoming second part of the series, who were mostly a waste of space.
And really annoying.
These kids were quite charming and enjoyable.
And quirky slightly, too.
And quirky slightly, yes. If they had used these kids for the ones that Clara was babysitting, even, with the time differential, I mean, if they'd used these actors instead for that, they could have kept the whole kid plot going properly through Series 7, but they didn't. And the kids made this an enjoyable watch. And yes, the whole, managing to get the husband back and everything was a wonderful character drama that was good for Christmas. All in all, it has some bad points, it has a few good points, making this kind of an average episode. All right, ratings. Tim, I bet I know what you're going to say.
I'm going to give it a 5 stars because for me it was really above average.
Ouch.
Oh.
All right, 5, Matt.
We're kind of sticklers. We're sticks in the mud. I'll grant you that. But there are some noticeable flaws at the very beginning, which might veer off people that are sticklers for that kind of detail. But for the mass majority of it, I felt it was at least a little bit above average. So I'm giving it at least a 3.5.
Bill?
I was kind of thinking of 3.5, but really looking on just how much this does or does not stick in my memory, I'm sticking with a 3.
Okay. And I'm actually with Bill. I'm going to give it a 3. I actually think it's slightly under a 3, but it rounds up. And the under is, of course, the beginning scene and the fact that Moffat's using formula that we've seen before and would see again. But yeah, so I'm going to give it a 3. So we've got 3, 6, 9.5,
We got
14.5 divided by 3.
3.625 average.
Okay.
So it's just
I can
above
live with
average.
I can live with that.
So basically, Matt's score was the closest to our final average.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Before we go, as we're wrapping up, I just want to remind everyone, if you're, in the Madison area or anything, next week, come join us at GeekCon. Those who are not going to be there, we're probably not going to be doing anything before the convention. If we do, it'll probably be something small and we'll announce it, but probably not. Just maybe keep your eyes open, if anything.
But yeah, as far as I'm aware, we're just going to be doing only the convention for next week.
Mm-hmm.
It will be Saturday night, very late.
I think at midnight is when we're scheduled.
Mm-hmm.
So midnight to 2 a.m. we will be podcasting. And that's Central Time, so that's 1 to 3 for those of you on the Eastern Seaboard.
We will be having a panel. I'm not sure if all of us are going to be there or not, but we're going to be talking a bit about Series 8 and essentially the final what Mind of Mofat retrospective has taught us to expect in the next season, as well as the actual facts as well.
Body parts
looking up
and
into the season.
weird attempts at feminism that don't work.
Yeah.
Blink,
We'll
blink.
talk about it a bit. We'll add a panel. We're going to try to be all at the Claddagh Irish Pub, which is across the street from the convention, on Saturday at 7 to watch the Doctor Who stuff. And we will be podcasting midnight, so hopefully we can get a live stream. That is dependent on the hotel internet. If not, we will have to upload the file as soon as we can.
Yes, we do have backup strategies in case we cannot get an actual live stream working.
I will warn you, we have had problems with the hotel internet in the past.
Yes, so it's not going to be surprising. So we may have to release the episode a couple of days after it's been done.
I have received word that the video game room is also going to be using the internet at the same time for a League of Legends tournament, so that may hurt us.
Oh, lordy.
Yeah.
Oh, my. Yeah, that's going to put a crush on it.
I nearly kicked Becker when he mentioned that.
Why would you have that at midnight?
Yeah, I think it's just finishing. But we'll see. We'll see.
We'll see, but that's a little late to have something like that. Anyway. That's all for this time, folks.
Yep. Tune in a week and a half. Hopefully we'll get the live stream up. If not, look for us on the on our usual non-stream sites on YouTube, etc. Probably sometime Sunday or Monday.
Mm-hmm. And if we can't get, we are also running into some technical difficulties with Twitch, and if we can't sort them out by the end of the convention, I should be able to actually host the shows again on my YouTube channel. So the show will be bouncing back to me again for hosting.
Yeah, good.
So that's all for now. See you all next time.
Yep. Bye.
Until next time, everyone.